Alrighty, it being 7 o'clock or thereabouts. Get started. We're meeting, it's hybrid meeting and it's being recorded. So, introduction and public comments. Public, so seeing none. Minutes, did everyone get a chance to look at the September 17th minutes? Thought they generally looked good. Okay,
What are we missing before I go?
Jack and Dave. Jack is not coming. We don't know about Dave.
Okay, sometimes these go all over the rest.
Correct.
I have a sort of little public announcement kind of thing. I'll send around a link to everybody about a trailer for a film on accessible dirt bike trails and a guide to building those kinds of trails, not dirt bike, dirt trails for bikes.
I saw it.
And I just wanted to, in general, say that American Trails webinars, they have one every week. Free. Sign up for them. You can also get the recording, so you don't actually have to watch. You get a link to the report. You don't have to watch live. And they're excellent. And I put a link to the list of upcoming webinars in the minutes. So if you're at all interested, they're free, they're great. I've done probably a dozen or more of them, and I have only get one stinker.
Ratio. Alrighty, looking for a motion to approve the minutes. So move. Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Unanimous, and so carries. You and David has finally arrived, so you didn't get to vote in the minutes. Did you have huge changes to them?
I'm sure you guys had extensive debate on those. So
Yeah.
sorry I missed that.
Yeah, well, we're good. Alrighty. Moving on, at the very last minute, I did what I was been meaning to do for about 2 weeks and put together a memo to send to the select board with regard to e-bike.
I like it.
I did too.
Yeah, so I've almost been run over
Yeah.
by kids on,
Well, Jack said the same thing at this
Yeah.
last meeting, so I don't think we need to hash it out anymore unless anybody has any particular comments about them.
well, okay, just, Scott, you had a comment.
Yeah, so, I'm not. I think if we are going to make a recommendation, any recommendation, I think we need to take a vote, and by very nature, I was voting on a letter, I suppose, at the contest. That would be one way to do a vote, but actually, I don't think at this point we should make a recommendation. I think we should suggest to the select board that they should do their due diligence. I don't think, personally, I mean, if, we're up for discussion, which we're not going to necessarily do unless we want to. I don't think we should let e-bikes. I think we should keep the Massachusetts Chief of Police stance, make that recommendation. But if we're gonna make a different recommendation, I'd like to vote on it.
Yeah, I think the purpose of the letter is to have that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The reason I think it's important to do something besides go with what the Mass Police are recommending, or what the state law is right now, is that it's a little like the whole cell phone, in cars. We all know everyone uses their handheld cell phone in the car, even though it's illegal. The policeman could stand, anywhere in Hopkinton and pull people over for that just constantly. And having the law does nothing. The police obviously saying no e-bikes on trails, that's easy, black and white. Cops can stand there, they're not going to. This, I think, does two things. One, it sends a message that we're looking at this issue and we recognize that e-bikes have value and that there's value in having them on certain types of trails. Just that they need to be controlled. So it's part of starting the education and discussion that I think is really critical. Just saying, nope, not happening. it's all, they're already being violated. The police are doing nothing about it. If we want to move things forward, I think we have to start a discussion. And I think this is a way to do it.
Mhm.
And to a user, we're not being people just saying, no, you can't use it. The kids are going to use it regardless. It's saying, hey, think about it. And then, yeah, to your point, it gives us something to say, hey, if you guys don't follow the 10-mile-an-hour speed limit, if you don't use it responsibly, if you don't be a little smarter, then yeah, we are going to go back to what it officially is, which is no.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I appreciate your comment. I'll do a quick response, sorry. You raise your hand, raise it. Okay, so the fact that no one's gonna enforce them being on or off, they're absolutely gonna be less apt to enforce the speed limit. Let's say the speed gun standing on the trail. So
It's actually
gun
pretty,
turns
it's
on.
actually pretty easy to do because of the miles per hour. So you could easily set up markers and
No, understood, but you're saying now we're modifying trails of markers. My point is that the argument, I don't necessarily buy into respectfully that they're not gonna be enforced, so therefore we might as well just let them on and then put a rule that's harder to enforce. Because when they're turning on, they're violating it. A cop or any resident can see someone turning onto a trail. I'm not suggesting, my understanding of the Mass Chief's police, tell me if I'm wrong, is only for natural surfaces. That's what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting there is definitely a place for them. I'm suggesting that on softer trails, it's harder sometimes to control, especially when it's wet. You have different type of users on trails, whether it's horseback or other type of trails. And I just think that we need to establish a precedent by indicating that there are certain trails that we believe that they're unsafe on and cause more harm. And if we wanted to put a speed limit, which is what, with Lexington and all the other towns are, and multiple municipalities across the country have actually banned them. Especially, and I think Mass Police didn't take the easy route. They actually adopted what's naturally happening. So that's my stance. So I think you get my point, but.
Linda?
I'll go the opposite direction. I would like to see the 10-mile-an-hour speed limit on Center Trail because from a sustainability standpoint, e-bikes are a very useful thing. I know someone in the town has reached out to me. She has an e-bike that takes 2 kids and she uses it on a back trail to get into the center of town regularly as a more sustainable, exercise-oriented, out in the woods way to get around. I don't like that they're banned on trails in the state, and I would like to see us allow them on even more trails, but with the speed limit restriction. And I do understand that it will be hard to enforce, but having signs and having signs at all is a big help.
Jane?
I agree with you and Linda in that I don't think we want to get into the business of being prejudicial toward users of e-bikes who are often senior citizens and people who can have accessibility issues. I don't think we want to go down that route. We don't want to limit them. 10 mile per hour is reasonable. And I did not interpret the Mass Chief's interpretation of the law the way you did.
Oh, no, I was
They
reading
have-
the letter. I did.
Yeah, they have jurisdiction over roads. They don't have jurisdiction over sidewalks or trails, as far as my understanding.
I don't know if it's the state police, but it is the state.
Mass Chiefs.
Yeah.
Is that-
And
So was that, Peter, I was going based on yours. I did not read any statute,
Yeah.
any rules.
I,
So that's your
That's what the
interpretation.
math chief
So
said.
it's his interpretation of it.
It's also.
I disagree with that. That's not the understanding that I have coming from that field. And I just don't, I think it's a quagmire to go into an area where you're going to start discriminating against people who actually will use it and use it responsibly.
Yeah, the thinking was to try and encourage responsible use as opposed to coming across as the no people, because I think no doesn't get you very far.
No.
And
Yeah, so I think I pretty much agree with what Linda and Jane said. I think it would be a good idea to have them there. I think encouraging responsibility is important, as is encouraging responsibility for everybody on the trails, not just e-bikes. So dog owners in particular are often letting their dogs loose, and sometimes they do a better or worse job of leashing dogs when they know that anyone else is around. But I'd say very commonly their dogs unleashed, and I think there's going to be more and more e-bikes as people become aware of what they can do. And I do believe that traveling to trailheads with e-bikes will be common. And sometimes people maybe want to take the e-bike part of the way on a trail and then walk part of it as well. So another downside of saying no is potentially going to encourage people to see us as an establishment to be pushed back against. I think that would be a bad thing.
Linda?
So I also think the speed limit should apply to all bikes, not just e-bikes.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that there's nothing stopping you from taking an e-bike on a trail as long as you don't use the electric. So that's going to be hard to enforce too.
Yeah, that's
It's
easy.
not- you can't-
Yeah, but you're sticking, don't forget, the 10-mile speed limit. So no matter what kind of bike,
Yeah.
you don't go beyond.
Yeah,
that.
so
Right, but my point is, it's gonna be hard to enforce the speed limit, but it's also gonna be hard to enforce. Did they happen to have the e-bike engaged? If the rule
It
is
doesn't
no
matter
e-bikes at all.
if they don't go beyond
Yeah,
10 miles.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's,
Go that way, but Scott's point was don't do them at all, no e-bikes allowed on trails.
It's easier to enforce, it's fine.
Yeah, but I think.
it's not actually
the
easier to
speed
enforce.
limit
That's
is-
the speed limit is. No,
But the point is, if you don't have the bike on, it's hard for them to tell, did you have the bike on at that?
It
time or
doesn't
not?
matter if you have a speed limit sign.
Right.
Right,
no
Right,
matter what.
but
I'm trying to-
Scott's point is that, if e-bike, not e-bike, you can't tell sometimes e-bike, not e-bike, so it is really hard to enforce. The speed limit you can
Yeah.
absolutely enforce. And again, I think that more the point is still that we want to be starting the process of education and engagement. And I think offering something like that, which is hey, we're not going to say no. We're going to say we need to take some steps to try and, limit the damage that these folks are
I have a
doing in
question.
safety concern.
are we distinguishing at all between the types of e-bikes for
No,
pedal assist versus ones with the throttle?
No,
No,
at this point.
So,
10 miles an hour.
yeah, no, I kind of like that actually because it's easy. I mean, and it's uniform. Well, we can debate whether 10, 15 is more appropriate, but I think having all bikes follow the same rules makes it consistent and more enforceable. So you don't have to say, well, was he using his throttle or did he have the electric on or was he pedaling? Does he, and some of the bikes are just disguised so they don't look like e-bikes. They look like regular.
Well, the letter here doesn't mention anything about the classification of the e-bikes.
Right here.
Right here.
Have a seat.
Well,
So.
No, I just said that. I'm just trying to stay germane to the letter, right? We're not talking
Yeah.
about classification of bikes. We're talking
Right.
about 10-mile-per-hour speed limit.
So I do appreciate comments. I agree with James' point about accessibility. I am no expert in e-bikes. I've done research, whatever I can do. And I did not see that that was the primary user, but obviously don't want to restrict it. I'm okay if we leg it in. We're talking about setting some sort of rule and see how it goes. I'm okay with that part. I would like to see the letter modified to say then also applies to other bikes that I think someone had mentioned to maybe broaden that. And then I'd also like, I made another comment to Peter on passing, that I'd also like to see a greater emphasis on safety. So the select board does prioritize it and the police do.
That would come into the educational phase, not on the speed limit sign, but yeah.
No, I'm not saying on the sign, I'm saying in the letter. I was pointing out the letter. So I'd like to see a greater emphasis on safety and the prioritization, and the engagement and maybe even invite an agenda item with the police and us there? Or no?
No,
Don't worry
we
about it.
want to dump that to the select board. This is a huge townwide issue.
Oh, it is a town road.
And I think all we can do is start
Tell you right now.
process focusing on.
Tell you they don't have to.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They do have on the roads and they're not doing any enforcement right now.
So can we just add, not add, can we just modify the last sentence saying that we suggest entertaining a speed limit
Yes,
instead of saying, give us permission to post a sign? Because if the thought is to start conversations, right? The select board being the first one, I would not ask for permission. I would ask for open for a conversation, open to a discussion.
That's good.
Select board, that's what you're telling me.
I'm reading this letter, Ken, and it
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
we want your permission to post the sign.
right.
And I'm saying, what I'm hearing is we want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Two different things. But I'm just going on the letter.
Right, but what are you saying, Ken?
Seems to me that that's Conte nine, and we've already had a conversation here. We asked, We've just requested. I don't see any harm in saying what you think.
Give a recommendation.
Yeah.
That's a house
Having conversations. Or
So we recommend versus suggest.
Rather than request permission, we can recommend.
Yeah, and I think recommend is stronger than suggest.
Sure. I like that. And just speaking to your concerns about the enforcement thing, I think having a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit sign there, if some guy goes by at 10 miles an hour, you're more likely to go, dude. You know, so I think
That
it
was
makes it
what you're
easier.
thinking for those on.
There's, yeah. But I think there'll be an expectation that I think at least the behavior is identified that we're seeking, and
Yeah,
perhaps we'll have better.
yeah, I just have
incentive.
really strong concerns over any enforcement of anything, but I know that Jane even enforced that. I'm very saying, but let's give it a try. So you've converted me on a couple for the reasons I mentioned, so.
Jane, are you sure? When you say police don't have any jurisdiction on trails,
that makes sense.
like I could kill someone on a trail and then
No, that's different. Speed limit,
you don't
enforcing speed limit.
on
No,
a trail?
they will, no, they will not, because the select board have not posted anything. They go by what.
Oh, on our trails, yes.
But
Once it's posted,
Right,
it would
that's
be their
different.
jurisdiction. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Okay.
Okay.
all right.
Do we want to go back to public comment to
Yeah.
allow the,
We will, but
and Don, because of the meeting room being changed, maybe they didn't hear
Yeah.
that.
okay, but at this point, I would look for a motion to accept the letter with the change that we're going to recommend instead of request for permission.
And adding, extending the type of bikes.
Yes, and making the speed limit applicable to all.
Yep.
Yes, clarify that it's not
Yeah.
just e-bikes.
Just as a point of reference, so the Milford Trail, the paved Milford Trail in Houston, they have a speed limit of 15.
I know.
Mhm.
So it is posted. as
Like
well.
it was
Right.
pushed off the trail by one.
Yeah, 10 is a couple of things. One, I've ridden on Center Trail a few times in 10 and it's plenty fast enough. You're not going very far.
Yeah,
And two, separating 10 from 15 is hard. 10 from 20 is pretty easy in terms of how much distance you're covering. So I think 10 is much more enforceable, much more easily enforceable if, you know, and again, I see it as part of an education process. For like Andy said, you yell at the kid going by and they know, oh, I gotta slow down a little bit.
yeah.
Paved versus questionable.
Alrighty,
Did we want to add a safety line? I mean,
there is a mention of safety in here, but yeah, I can add a,
Just to have a little more emphasis on it.
yeah, I put that in.
Okay.
All right, so,
So moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions or? No, okay.
What was who motioned? I'm sorry, Andy?
Sean motioned, Andy seconded. Doug, did you have any comments? Don?
Dump's closed.
Doug's
I get John and said, we gotta sound the same.
Sounds like
Yeah, I can ride an e-bike and I think 10's a good idea on our trails. And I've been thinking and processing this because I do have an e-bike and I think it's wonderful, been used. And I think we need maybe some courtesy guidelines on the trails, even 10 miles an hour. If you go by somebody at 10 miles an hour, and they're walking and they don't see you, you can startle them.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that with anybody. You know, I got a little jingle bell on my bike, but if I see somebody on the trail, I'm going to slow way down.
You should.
And then I had some thoughts wondering about, you know, where we are now with the amount of vehicles. I was wondering what the hell the Minuteman Trail is like in Arlington.
Let's visit.
It was originally set up, I think, as a bicycle trail. That was the intent, but I get it. It probably gets walkers and dog walkers and inline skaters and skateboarders.
Education with cyclists, and they'll say, teach the cyclists as they approach, they're up on your left, come
On your
left,
Yeah.
on your left. So they've done a good job with that. And that
They have signs
could
up.
be, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like skiing is
Yes,
that.
exactly.
sort of
It's sort of
milieu
a
where
common
you're-
courtesy
yeah,
thing.
courtesy.
I got
That
a ball
may
for once
evolve.
on a trail, and the kid in front of me turned sideways across the trail and stopped in front of me. It was like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and so I think that will evolve naturally.
yeah.
I would say that
As
that
we-
trail also is primarily, I shouldn't say primarily, parents don't let their kids on that trail anymore because of the speed of the bikers. Because it's a
Well,
commuting.
part of.
A lot of it is a commuting.
It's a big commuter trail. Great.
All righty, moving on.
And John, did you have any public comments that you came here for? I know you just jumped in on the e-bikes, but we kind of had the public comment session before I got here.
No, other than I'm glad, I think we finally distinguished the difference between e-bikes and electric motorcycles, which are two different animals we're seeing out there.
Right.
If we did, but.
All right.
Let's
So
keep those lines.
we had our subcommittee or sub-task groups or whatever we're calling them, subgroups. The task subgroup on physical trails meet and have any thoughts? That was,
I am dog without homework at this point, so dog is playing.
Yeah, we can, need.
okay. What do we do for the rest of the committee? I mean, what do they have to bring for us next time?
So I did a bunch of stuff on my own.
Oh, there's always one in every crowd.
Yeah, talk about ad hoc committee.
So, yeah, I had about one, but it's okay.
Well,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, so Linda and John Ritz gave me two different lists of all the trails that we have. And so I combined the two lists and started to expand it. One of the comments that I got from Linda was, you know, how do we get more data and how do we make it manageable? Right now it's in this huge Excel spreadsheet and it's going to just grow. And so I'm thinking of figuring out a way to make a database with it. So you have searchable fields.
Just for historical purpose, Linda, was that the one that Ken put together way back?
So a list of all trails or a list of trail work, a list required?
List of all trails, trying to figure, because our task was trail prioritization.
Yeah.
Right? That was our task. They were, one of the things, when I say, all right, what's the inventory of all the trails that work? And so that's what, that's what I did. Is that's that, well, no, well, we're listing all the trails, like what are all the trails that we have to deal with? What's the population?
So your list it doesn't have state parks and like, Waseco.
It has it, yeah, all the trails in Hopkinton, yeah, we made the.
So Linda, where did you get the list?
I don't know on TCMC at some
Okay,
point,
so that must have been one you put together maybe early on in TCMC.
and I added
Okay.
to it and
Yeah.
then Sean added to it.
And so.
I just want to make sure this list isn't missed, you know, that we're.
Well, the whole point is that we have this list because people are gonna say, all right, did you include this? What about this? How about this naming? And saying, okay, so once we get the list done and once we're comfortable with the population, then we start saying, okay, what are the additional fields what are the additional points of information that we need? Right? One of the things I'm suggesting is, another thing I'm getting is the map and doing zones or sectors or whatever word you want to use. Right. And so there's certain trail systems that may be connected or may be worked on together or maybe geographically more preferential because there's a higher concentration of housing. right?
Mhm.
And it's just like that type of thing. You say, okay, Corey, that's, you got the schools network, and then you have the downtown network, and then you have the Maspinock network, and you have the Whitehall network, and you have like these groups. And so you can say, okay, well, these trail systems, you have 5 different trail systems that are in that particular group. You know, that might be the
Cluster the concept.
like a cluster and say, all right, so for example, like Echo Trail, right?
Mhm.
Not a highly dense area, right? That probably would get looped into somehow the schools because ultimately it connects up to the schools, you would say, right? Or the Elmwood or is it the Elmwood Farm? Yeah, that trail system behind school, behind the center school. I'm just thinking out loud as to how you would kind of organize the trails to help with prioritization. Because we're talking about.
Prioritization, though, I'm not sure where you're heading with starting with a complete list. I think it might be easier just to focus on, there are a couple lists floating around of trails that need work or need development.
This could
And
be,
maybe starting with that list might be more fruitful than just saying, okay, well, here's a huge list of trails in town. What are the priorities of these trails? I mean, I'm not sure where you're getting at, but where are you heading?
The whole point is that I want to know what the whole inventory is. Okay, I hear you. Because we talked about prioritization, we talked about big ideas of what the prioritization should be. And we also talked about very granular, all right, we have these projects right now that need immediate attention. And we spanned it. Our conversation the last 6 months that we spanned it. And say, okay, now how do we how do we get our arms wrapped around that? That's the whole point.
I have a thought too.
Jane, go ahead.
When we met with our planning group, we were struggling with a similar idea, except how do we develop a master plan with all of these trail systems? And we interestingly came up with zones or quadrants or however. And how are we going to, within those quadrants, could we then have subgroups? Which are priorities or zones or whatever. So I think that the two groups need to.
There's an overlap.
together. There is
Yeah, well,
definitely an overlap.
That's why I want to talk the same language.
Yeah.
That's why I thought this
So-
was important.
It is important, and
But I-
especially in the beginning planning stages,
Yeah,
so
but
that we
the-
can come up with a.
one could certainly say that putting all those that list of all those trails together is really a part of the planning group, as opposed to
We need their
the,
input.
you know.
Take it.
No, but this is where it's interesting, because we ran into the same issue.
Yeah,
Because, hold on, we ran into the same issue where I think, and I was sort of sitting there moderating and throwing my thing in, but, you know, Jane's talking master plan and Ken was talking more, how do we physically get stuff done? And I think you guys are, I'm hearing sort of the same argument of, you know, we know we've got these 5 priority trails, let's figure out which one's 1, which one's 5 and get going on it. And you're saying, we need to kind of get this all packaged up before we do
It's
that.
tough to prioritize.
Yes.
It's really tough to prioritize when you don't know what's the inventory and what's the impact.
correct.
Yeah, so I think that's great. I 100% agree and I like that approach.
So that,
I think having this contextual cluster or zone, quadrant here
Whatever.
is going to be incredibly invaluable for all the groups. Because biased, I'm sure you're thinking the same way, because we've been on the same page around communication. We can look within the quadrant zones or clusters, whatever you
And then
got,
identify,
and say, okay, what are some of the influencer groups? How do we increase the community engagement in that area? So that I think there's a lot of benefits of this, seeing what that clustering or that heat map or whatever looks like of how things are consolidated based on residential density, based on the connectivity.
Well, I recommend this, is that everybody look at the list, right? And say, I'd like to see these points of information. And then we can revise the list, and then how it gets managed and saved and utilized in the future from a system standpoint, that's TBD.
I may be volunteering, sorry, I didn't see your comment.
So I had a couple of thoughts. One is, there's definitely overlap among the groups, but there's also overlap among trail priorities and that overall priority. For example, if when we came up with a few meetings back, what's important, one of the things was, let's say, connectivity. I don't remember all the other things we had. But that master list can help in identifying where are the connectivity issues. It's not going to help with, we need a bridge here, but it's going to help with what you said. And I can also see, you know how a subway map looks? I almost like the idea of a trail map like that in town where the trails are really thick and we see where they are, and that might help with the zoning kind of
I
thing.
did that.
Well, my recommendation is, again, we look at this list and add to it and say, these are the important fields that we will all look at, you know, like connectivity would be a point of something like, all right, how does this relate, or et cetera, et cetera. Then we get comfortable with this list. We also have, so that's my recommendation for that particular part.
Okay.
We also have some immediate projects that we've already voted on to move forward with, right? One is the Fruit Street Bridge, right? And this is by the Pratt Farm, right? The old Pratt Farm, the Fruit Street Fields. And there's a bridge, then there's two bridges. There's the North Bridge and there's the South Bridge, right? Town property, Woodville Rod and Gun Club, DCR. Okay, so there's a trail that goes from town property, the Mary Pratt,
Fruit Street property, yeah.
right? The Fruit Street property and the Mary Pratt Trail, right, goes north to south, and it goes from town property across the bridge that's dilapidated through Woodville Rod and Gun to DCR over another bridge. And our particular project that was voted for, that we got funding for, was to rebuild the North Bridge. And so I had the question, does Woodville Rod and Gun Club know about this? Did we reach out to the club?
Good idea.
And so I did. And I had a lot of conversations with them. I met with them, and I met with them a couple times and actually walked the trail with them on Sunday. And that's why they issued this letter that I brought tonight.
Yeah. Potential.
And so essentially what they said is that the trail is unsafe. And I personally agree with them. When I walked the trail, there literally was clay pigeons, whole clay pigeons on the trail.
So they're that aim. What are you worried about?
That's the pigeon machine. It's not the shotgun.
Okay.
The pigeon machine gets to the trail. The buckshot goes beyond the trail,
Not buckshot,
Thank
or
you.
bird shot.
bird shot, yeah.
By the way, because it's from that is such a.
Yeah, I'm good.
And so what they decided to do is to post, by state law, they're required to post signage every 50 feet. And so they're going out and posting every 50 feet, no trespassing, don't come back here, it's a gun range.
Well, they've got that already.
No, every 50 feet. They didn't have it every 50 feet. I literally walked the trail on Sunday, and there were not signs
On
every
the
50 feet.
range, it's pretty close to every 50 feet along that range.
Not, but no, their posting wasn't that way. There was only, like, maybe there's a half dozen signs. There's gonna be a lot more, is my point.
Okay.
Yeah, and
People
they
see,
have
you know,
responsibility.
Does that mean we
Probably
can't,
always.
then that trail can't be used?
I don't think we as a committee should enable people to use that trail. It's
We
my
have
personal
the
perspective.
bridge with respect to all that, the bridge that.
It's on our property, but only if used to.
Where, I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question? I couldn't hear.
We had a project to build a bridge, to
Yes.
this here bridge.
Yes,
Where is that bridge with respect to where the gun club part of the trail?
50 feet north of the property.
Okay, so that it would be a bridge to nowhere.
That's right.
Like, it's almost
Yeah.
isn't working.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would say that means that we shouldn't work on the bridge. That's right.
I want to look
Maybe
into
not
signage first.
What?
They want to look into signage first.
But it would be silly for us to expend effort on the bridge regardless of how many signage, as long as they don't have anyone going on.
Agree.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was private land where that trail is.
Yeah, but to your point, I'm sure you've used that trail plenty of times.
Yeah.
At your
Same,
risk. Yep.
same here. And they, you know, they have signage. If you look at LiDAR, that road has clearly been there for a very long time.
Mhm.
The bridge again, on the other side, it's a pretty neat rock formation right behind the Woodville Rod and Gun, or.
You know, they're doing a
Woodville Plant.
project this weekend, I thought,
Right.
to rehabilitate
Mill,
Or-
that sort of stuff,
that
yeah,
area on the DCR land.
right.
How do you get to the DCR lands then?
Just walk to it from behind the fire station.
Yeah, behind the
Okay.
fire station.
The gun club at all?
No.
So basically, we have the fire station area and we have the Pratt field, and now there's not a way to connect them.
Correct. So we, our
Not a
connection is
public
gone.
road Anyway, well, there may be a way, but it's not the current road.
You have to
Yeah.
cross White Hope Brook a couple times and get an easement for the guys on the other side of it or something.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was good.
So bottom line is, the bridge is no longer a priority.
And we have funding for it?
It was 5,000.
Okay, who
Yeah.
did we get that funding from? Our own
It's from our own budget.
Okay.
Money, I think we should vote to transfer those funds, the wood for those funds
We need to.
to Berry Acres.
Well, I was gonna talk to you.
Go on to Berry Acres.
Then we hop it just into the general.
Yeah, I think we have to really
Then
do
we're.
some more of a prioritization to figure
Yeah.
out where it goes.
Yes,
Right.
maybe put it back in general pool.
Right, and so that brings to the next topic that Chuck and I, like Chuck, you want to say something now? You want to wait until I'm done?
Only that, we do have the lumber stocked at Hughes for that bridge and boardwalk, but I heartily concur that, it should be repurposed for Berry Acres. But we do already have the lumber. The funds were spent.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I just add one thing? One thought I had, and this would be a good example of it, is I feel like we're getting better about proposals for trails and things. I almost would like to see a checklist. I'm talking to the people on the trails. Like where you go down the checklist, because what you did was perfect, but if we had a checklist that reminded us, who are all the butters we should talk to before we vote to spend money on this necessarily? It might not be a bad idea. I could see there being a lot of items on the checklist, but none of them take a lot of time necessarily, but sometimes they might. So I would just suggest the Trails group consider coming up with a checklist for new work, if that's part of your.
You sure? I mean, I think anybody should be doing some type of due diligence before putting forth a project.
Checklist. I don't know who comes up with that, but I
Well,
will.
part of the proposal is who are the interested parties
Yeah.
that we should talk with before doing any major work.
And that was part of that plan that somebody had drafted through the TCMC.
No, we developed it in this committee a few months ago. Here's what a
Wait, it
proposal.
wasn't used for
should
the
look like.
Woodville.
Yeah, we didn't follow.
No, right, we were just getting, at that point, we were just getting money.
It was too early for us to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had that $60,000 that we had, that one-time fund that we wanted to divvy up the money before we gave it all back, the rest back to the town, so.
So the decision is what to do with the loan. What to do with money.
At this point, yes.
Right, so Chuck and I put together a proposal for two particular bridges. And this is at the end of the cul-de-sac of Chamberlain on the west side of Chamberlain. And so there's two particular areas that are wet, not this summer, but they generally are wet.
Let's take a look on my map here.
One is 16 foot and one is 60 foot.
Somehow the independent got expensiveness.
Conservation, maybe?
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
an article in the Independent today.
Okay.
Citing-
Okay, can I finish, Ken?
Including this link.
May I finish? Okay, thanks. So there are two boardwalks. One is 16 foot, one is 60 foot to the west of Chamberlain, right? And so Chuck prepared a proposal. I helped prepare the proposal and we sent it to Concom. And it was reviewed at last Tuesday's Concom meetings. And I heard that information that our particular item that Chuck and I put together was dropped from the agenda. It was not dropped from the agenda. It was a misunderstanding. So it was a misunderstanding. I was not in the meeting. Concom says, listen, we want a little bit more specifics. So Chuck put together a schematic of what the boardwalks would look like. And I sent that to Concom yesterday. And hopefully we're on Concom's agenda next Tuesday, which they can approve the boardwalks. So if everything goes well, we can have the Trails Committee do another work session potentially in November to build the boardwalks.
Through the chair.
Where those,
Is this, sorry, is this the same work, but maybe a little bit more heavy duty of the same area? I thought was this the washout area that we talked about a couple of meetings ago? In that area, or is this a brand new?
So the Trails Club did a Berry Acres walk in August.
No, I'm talking about the Chamberlain, so you're
Yeah.
proposing.
Yeah, okay, so the Trails Club did a Berry Acres walk.
Yeah.
And at the end of the walk, when we got up to Chamberlain, yeah, there was, I think Chuck had mentioned at that point in time, this is wet areas.
Yes.
I don't know if it was considered washed out or not. I don't think so, but,
Nothing water. Okay, it's just.
but this is on town property,
Mhm.
right? And there are sections that we did also discuss for boardwalks that are not on town property, that's not part of this proposal.
Okay.
And that, those boardwalks would be on, I think it's called Rec LLC. It's the person or the company who did the whole Windsor and then potentially doing the fitness club. And so we need to reach out to them to figure out what's their intent with that particular property before we move forward.
So on that point, the Independent did have an article today that I just got my Independent just before this meeting. And they cited those numbers and they mentioned the Conservation Commission thing, but it sounded from the Independent article that there was some sort of tension between the Conservation Commission and us, and from your telling, which I think was perfectly reasonable.
No, I read the article. There was no, they just said we weren't there.
Yeah, there really
No,
is.
Sean, yeah, John asked me about it.
I didn't look into it. I think, yeah,
You deliver, you refuse to attend. You're so-
There's no contention. Yeah.
So, wait,
Let's not
yeah.
go into this.
Hold on a second, Chuck. So what happened was that Sean and I were talking and I said, oh, no, we've deferred the Chamberlain Street, which is the other part of Chamberlain Street that Chuck and I have been working on.
Yeah.
And Sean, I didn't realize Sean also had this other piece near Chamberlain on, so he didn't attend. But I told him, oh, no, it's off the agenda. And it was on the agenda. Now, having said that, for the last work that was done in Berry Acres, neither Chuck nor I attended. Chuck, I think you tried to attend in person and they were doing it by Zoom. And bottom line was, when we finally got hold of them, they'd approved everything. Thank you very much. So it was,
regardless, well,
in this case, they're looking for more information.
which is fine.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
we know, like, that'd be part of the proposal. If we ever have to go through Concom, these are the points that they're looking for. But
Right.
sometimes it might be overkill. Hopefully, just it sails through.
The bottom line is we used to give them just a one-page letter and that, sailed through. Now we've been giving them more information and better plans and as part of that, they're now we've raised their expectations and so now we have to meet those expectations, which is not a bad thing.
Scott seemed to have a-
Question.
Good question then.
Yeah, so, two questions, I guess, two-part question. One is, confirming this is a brand new proposed body of work that we're gonna fund with existing loan. That's the first part of the question, right? The second part of the question is, sounds like it's pretty precise and Chuck has kind of drawn this out. The lumber will meet the needs, or do we have any additional money that needs to be added?
I'm gonna have to defer to Chuck on that one, but I don't,
So it's
I'm
basically it's a swap.
Yeah.
It's a.
that's the intent right now.
Okay,
is this one.
okay, excellent.
Chuck?
Yeah, the lumber that was purchased for the Fruit Street Bridge is more than sufficient for the Berry Acres connection off Chamberlain, yes.
And then the last thing that we could put on as a priority, because I'm also thinking of the Trails Club, because the Trails Club asked us, said, listen, we want to know where your prioritization of is, right? And so right now it's month to month. Ideally, we want to be 6 months planning and be like, okay, then, and then it can move around. So November, I think if we're successful with Concom on Tuesday, we can do the Berry Acres Chamberlain boardwalks for the work session. which then puts us in December. And something that I've been noodling around, because I'm on the trail almost every weekend, is the west side of Hughes Farm. And so the west side of Hughes Farm, from Joseph Road to the crushed stone, it's lots of rocks, lots of roots, very bumpy. You can easily twist your ankle. And talking with John Ritz and Peter, we said, what about just getting wood chips? Maybe from a logging company or a tree company that has byproduct, and we just get a couple truckloads and break it on the roots and the rocks and stuff like that. And so I'm a little bit more proactive, and I reached out just sounding off ideas from the neighborhood. Like, what do you guys think of this? And so far I've gotten a lot of yeah, I think that's a great idea.
That's great.
No negative pushback at all?
Not that I've seen or heard. Great.
Right. I initially had a concern for that very reason and thought that it's something that we as a group
Right.
should talk about in terms of what's the best approach. Sometimes the best approach is just go ahead and do it, but,
It's a better idea.
you know, if it works, but certainly I've tried that, and particularly in that neighborhood, and got obviously a lot of pushback. So
Right.
great that, you know, I think over the years, we've worked that neighborhood to the point where we're not getting pushback. But it is something to think about, and if there's a question, to make sure to bring it to the group first and then figure out how we best go forward with it. Linda?
I would just like to say, of the list of prioritized work we already had, these seem to have just gotten added. Are they higher priority than other things that were already on that?
Well, that's the thing is I was really thinking about Trails Club and these work sessions. What can we nail out in a half a day?
No, but I think to the 2 points that I heard, that priority list ought to be taken by your group to get that 6-month ranking for Trails Club, you know, and I think that's kind of one of the tasks of the subgroup is to say, hey, here's what we think the next 6 months ought to be.
Right. And getting the inventory,
Right.
and that's where I said, what's the inventory of all the trails? And then what are the open projects that we know of? And then, okay, well, how do they map out? How do you prioritize them?
Yeah, and the inventory of trails is almost one separate piece from the,
What's,
you know, we've got this work task priority.
Yeah,
That's another.
10 projects on the list. Which ones should we work on?
Right, and then, yeah, we're gonna take a look at the whole list of trails, and oh, by the way, there might be 1 or 2 that pop to our mind and go, hey, you know what, that one really needs to get moved over to this priority list. Yeah.
I agree with all this. It's great. I totally support that because it's an ankle twister. You can't get a car, bike and pass us with roads. 100%. Yeah, I know. Well, you can, you're a madman. No, like,
I can't.
anyways, but I'd like to see the priority list at, I don't know if to call it durations or altitudes or whatever, but there's going to be the multi-year we need to make progress on prioritization, then the multi-month, and then the multi-week, right? So we're talking about trails, you know, maintenance, build outs, enhancements that are the Trails Club working sessions that hopefully eventually some, not all, but some are going to contribute to the multi-month goal and the multi-months contribute to multi-year. I'd like to see that connectivity of the plan. And maybe that's part of your master plan. But that to me is what I don't have in my head. Like how is the Upper Charles and the whatever we do for clusters or zones going to look like, and how does that come together? You know what I mean? I don't know if I articulated that right, but that's the
So if
list.
you're looking at the list, my recommendation is figure out, all right, so how would you do that in the list?
Yeah, like the building blocks.
Sure.
Like,
And that would be your feedback.
The weekly or the building blocks for the monthly or for the yearly. the long
And the other thing that comes from that is that priority list then goes to outreach. Because some of the feedback that Sean got is, how do I help on this? And I think if we've got a priority list of here's the, you know, next 6 months projects, and they're in this neighborhood, and that neighborhood, and this neighborhood.
Right.
And outreach sends it out in an article in the Independent, for example, I think, you know, and if you'd like to work on this, please contact this person.
For sure.
You know, again, it all works together.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were mentioning the list of what we had, I'd love to try to put some sort of on these clusters, again, I'm calling clusters or zones, but on that that map or whatever you're coming up with, a list saying, okay, here are the influencers and the groups and the, you know, the companies and the, you know, the different stakeholders that are central to that area. Here's the central to this area, whether it's the schools or whatever. So kind of overlaying on your list and putting maybe in one of the columns, you know, different groups that we think would either be users, advocates, workers, or whatever for that area. That's the thinking.
Add that feedback
Yeah.
when you look at the list.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea, honestly.
Thanks for doing all that,
Yeah.
Sean.
And then just at a high level with regards to the prioritization on Chamberlain Berry Acres. And so we have that very large project to do the crushed stone path from the east side of Chamberlain to the schools. And if we're successful with these boardwalks and the other boardwalks, we'll have a nice connection from Windsor Apartments to the schools.
Nice.
That to me is a huge win.
Huge.
And so that's why this kind of bubbled up.
There is a real blur between the planning and what we're supposed to be doing. That is confusing to me.
Well, that's, it hasn't been
And that-
developed yet.
right,
That's
yeah.
why we need to get together and that's
And
why.
So I guess with starting with the list is going to help. I think that map, did you end up with the large map? You had.
I tried to get one. I'm still working with the town to get it
You
up.
want the one you gave me back?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be enormously helpful when we do.
I've been trying to get one from the town and I've been struggling. So,
No luck with Josh?
but we've been going back and forth.
Okay.
Is it possible to get like an electronic copy that we can, I think it's like a big PDF or a big JPEG that we can just,
I can forward you what Josh sent me.
okay.
You know, maybe get it printed big. I think the physical,
The big one helps.
that with the master planning, I mean, if you're gonna look at zones or
You're gonna have
clusters,
to do
then
that
Right, and it
eventually.
makes it easier to say, okay, there's fewer trails in this area, so we need to concentrate efforts here, and over here, we're pretty good, and, you know, here's a key connection, you got these two
Yeah.
community groups with no connection between them, how do we deal
and
with
prompting you
that?
on butters as well. and-
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The town has, I mean, if we did even overlay the precincts, at least we know population and things like that. So, I don't know, a little bit of input.
Yeah.
I might not line up perfectly with precincts, but it's interesting.
So just a question about addenda to the minutes for this meeting. So we've got this map, which we just talked about. And we've got this list. Are they going to be addenda to this meeting somewhere so that somebody from the public or even
You want to
ourselves?
send the list to me and I'll attach it
I
to.
never took it off of Google Docs.
Okay, so I'll just include a link to it in the minutes.
That's a reason.
Yeah.
And also, I should also think that we should readily be able to amend it whenever we need to.
Well,
Right.
I have mixed feelings on that. I like that the subgroup owns it, and if we want to do stuff with it, we send them comments, because you can completely ruin it.
I'm not saying that we should, that I should be able to amend it. I'm saying that the group should, and
You mean the
that
list?
procedure should be
The
fine.
committee, our committee
Yeah.
could discuss and, all right, he's saying it's not set etched in stone.
Right. That's
Oh,
It's a living document now.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm
I
sorry.
think that language we've talked about, including that language into a master plan. Have this, have the prioritizations being flexible as we go along.
right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a living document. It's kind of.
all right, so let's move on, next on the agenda is update from our planning group. You want to go ahead, Jane?
I'll open your report.
Oh,
Ah.
it was pretty basic.
Pretty quick, yeah, so
We just talked about build discussion using Peter's proposed topics as listed. 1, connectivity, 2, goals and priorities, 3, Upper Charles Trail, 4, master plan, and 5 was the operations and maintenance. And after the initial introduction, I suggest that we first start with the past master plan because the other topics will naturally fall into a logical order for discussion after first being identified in the master plan. The conversation began and many of the above topics were discussed. At the end of the meeting, we decided that further meetings would be necessary and the subgroup will meet every other Monday, beginning every other Monday at Bill's. The common consensus at the end of the discussion was that it would be useful to start to develop a master plan that would then be brought back to the committee for their input. Then research will continue among the various subgroup members for input as we go along. Because I don't think you can really develop a master plan without considering all of the other subgroups
Mhm.
into this
I
conversation.
agree. I think you had a typo, right? Does that say 2024, Monday, 10, 11, 24? You guys are way ahead of us.
Oh.
About a year ago.
Yeah.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah.
And like, I had some comments to that. So I'm not really keen on the master plan idea, but it's not a bad idea. But here's my thoughts about it. In order to formulate the master plan, what I'd like us to think about is basically making an electronic copy of all the documents that we've already prepared to date, such so that we can feed into AI those documents and ask it, AI, ChatGPT or something, and make a master plan from those documents. Does that make any sense? Do people have expertise? So, a long time ago, the Upper Charles Trail Committee had this. Can you remember the school? Anyway, we had some plans made. We have a lot of documents there. We've basically got 50 pages of documents for sure. I don't know if we've got currently an electronic version of them. And so it almost seems to
For
me
the
that,
Upper Charles or for our committee?
Everything on the upper trails is online, Ken.
Yeah, as much as we can for our committee, it's all in the folder.
It's on the folders.
is the full, and is it a PDF or Word doc?
They're
Well,
mostly Google Docs and
Yeah.
Word. It's all different things. They're images, they're Google Docs,
Yeah,
they're
so-
maps, everything,
So-
PDFs,
For minutes.
Excel
Yeah,
spreadsheets.
I think minutes would be important thing. Those are Microsoft Word or Word doc. Those would be important. I think that you're right. I think it'd be relatively easy to feed those into ChatGPT or
Right.
Copilot or whatever people have.
Yeah, so
I'm an active user of that stuff and I find it invaluable, but,
well, just as a means to consolidating information, it's really good at doing it. It's my
Yeah.
experience.
yeah, it'll,
However, needs to have electronic access to the text. It can't start with a PDF.
We'll go to the Google
I would start with the minutes, honestly. I would just go MAI, go through every single minute from Upper Charles for 5-6 years or whatever.
There you go, Ken, you got a project.
I
To
mean,
bring back to
I'll
the master plan group.
work with you on that if you want. I'll be happy to, if you don't know how to do it. I think it's a decent idea. I don't think it's going,
I wasn't thinking, just the minutes, which are,
well, I mean, whatever documents,
which we do have is
Yeah.
an electronic copy.
Yeah, whatever is readable.
Readable copy.
I think maybe this is what you're saying, Jane was saying.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna, if I can articulate this, Paul, to be succinct. Each of the ad hoc groups are a component of the master plan. So there's a communication and an outreach component to it that actually define, not contribute and enable, but also do, but define the master plan, the prioritization process, define the master plan. What I would, in my head, what I'm thinking you got your mission objective is actually define overarching. Kind of what I said earlier is how the micro feeds into the medium, into the large, and where we head.
Yeah.
Like, what is our destination and how do we balance the Upper Charles with the connectivity, with the maintenance, and like, that's a very difficult thing to do and a lot to swallow, but that's what I'm hoping you
But
guys
that's
can
what it has to be.
put your heads together and come back with recommendations and how we actually gel and come together for all these different, very extensive
It's very complex.
objectives that we have.
But it can be
We're a
done.
boatload to do.
But
We can probably have a committee of 30
I mean-
people and maybe get more done, but you hardly manage meeting.
Yeah, but I mean, looking at mapping, I mean, clearly that's critical for the prioritization group. Planning, we have to have a map.
Yeah.
And for outreach, you gotta have that to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
touches all aspects. So yeah, it gets complicated and.
Yeah, so it's almost like you guys will have a framework and
correct.
then you
Right.
present, you say, oh, that's a good idea, and that'll feed it. So we're like, you guys have the framework, we keep
Right.
adding and hanging things on your branches.
But then the other piece is that, well, they're just saying with mapping, okay, end of the day, who takes it and runs with it? And what is the priority within planning, for example? That's one of
Well,
the
that's
issues
why we are going to rely on you guys. When we put
was,
map into the master plan, we're going to be drawing from all the other subgroups.
right, but one of the comments that we had was Ken was saying, well, I don't know if we need a master plan. We've already got some of that information. I think it's more important for our group to be looking at the mapping itself and physically getting that map pulled together so we can have it. Both are important. You know, there's only so much time in the day for us as volunteers. So how do we?
But where we're at, the plan is where
Yeah.
we're headed. You know, how are we gonna get there? You know, even the overall plan is how we coordinate and get there. Again, I don't know.
The way a master
That's-
plan works
that's-
is it's like it's like a whole book. And all of the other subgroups are like the index or the
Chapters,
chapters
yeah.
within the book. But you have to have that whole book.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the chapters don't make sense.
Mhm. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Right, but then you've got to
So-
prioritize within that as
Correct.
to.
Well, then you don't have to really prioritize, but you can pick and choose. If you want to go to mapping, you can pull up your chapter on mapping. If you want to go on your priorities for priorities, you can go to your chapter on priorities. That's what a master plan will provide,
Hmm.
is it's a guidebook. It's not set in stone, it can be changed,
Mhm.
but it gives you an overall map
Mhm.
of what the overall picture could look like. And there are all
Yep.
of these various elements within it.
Yep. Linda?
I was just gonna add, I don't remember if it was in TCMC or in this committee, that when we talked about a master plan, we said we were gonna just start small and not get like overwhelmed, paralyzed by trying to have it be everything.
Then
Correct.
that, you know
Just
what,
start and add to it, have
Yeah.
to be living.
But
that's fine, but those are individual projects. Those are general plans. You need to, those are general projects, like.
Well, no, the
mapping is a
master, the
general
master
project.
plan can be, it can be simple
It
in the
can be
sense that it's an
simple as you want.
outline
Have whole-
as opposed
We'll
to.
get to that later, but
Right.
to start small and not get overwhelmed so you can get.
It's not-
things done.
Yes, but you don't want to limit yourself. You want to be able to look at a whole big project of what could possibly be. It's not something you're gonna zero in on. It's what could Trails and Hopkinton look like in 20 years? You know, do we want, and that's what it could look like. So you're not going to zero in on all of the small trail paths. You're not going to zero in on a multi-use hard surface path. You're not going to zero in on all the bridges. You're not going to zero in on all of the maps or priorities.
I wasn't implying that, just so you know. If you understood that, then I didn't communicate well, but that's fine.
Anyway, so that's what a master plan and my understanding of master plans.
So I don't mean to be, am I beating this one? But I would say, you could stop it. That was your cue to stop. You did. So I view the planning and the master plan to have elements, to Linda's point, not drilling down and debating and coming back a lot of detail. But an element would be, and a hot topic for all of us is like, how do we hand off the intake and the ingestion, or that we do, the fact that we do hand off to the town, and we expect in X number of years, the town to be maintaining trails, or how do we engage with other stakeholders overarching?
Yeah.
Not the how, I should say, that we are.
Yeah.
So the master plan is like, we're gonna have an Upper Charles, here's what it looks like, not necessarily where. How does that plug in?
Correct.
How do we engage, and what's the evolution of what the trail scope look like? How the stakeholders, the town, how's the evolution of the town, the select board? That's what I'm kind of thinking in my head. I don't know if that
That's-
resonates. and
Yeah,
people agree with that.
that's about it.
Alrighty, next group, outreach.
Okay, so you guys are probably sick of hearing my voice today. So Linda and Leanne. So Linda and I met.
But it's better than mine.
Linda and I met. Jack was out gallivanting around the globe in Portugal, and we couldn't make scheduling work for this guy. He's multitasking, multi suburbs. So what we did is we came up with a framework for outreach, we call it the outreach group. And we have sections called what our purpose and goal is. I'll go through that in a second. Who our target audiences are, and what our engagement strategy is. I don't have this, I need this to my cheat sheet, but it's up on the screen. So I
Can you send it out?
Yeah, absolutely. It's in Google Docs, right? We'll send the link. But the purpose here for the next, 10 minutes, and you guys can ask any questions you want, obviously, is for Linda and I to relay just structurally and some of the thoughts we have. It's not complete, right? We met once for a couple hours. So basically, the purpose, we believe, is to enforce what's in our mission, is encouraging community involvement, stewardship for the sustainable use, right? So it's encouraging, maybe if you could make the
I
font.
don't know, how do I make
Is there
the
a
whole,
plus
I
sign?
can't find the Zoom button.
Yeah, I can,
I hate it when there's a plus sign over in there.
on the right hand
That's-
side, is that added
that's-
attachment?
Yeah.
But-
Yeah,
Maybe
that-
do, can you do the mouse and go boom, boom? There
There we go, I just did a command.
you go. All right.
Does that
But,
help?
the ways, some ideas that we believe this will sort of set the tone for outreach. Is
Let me just try one more
everybody
time.
with me?
No, let me try one more time.
Okay.
Updates, hide those.
I'll voice over, you guys can see the text. I know you guys want a visual,
Go ahead.
but some of the tenets or some of the ways that we believe we can encourage community involvement, stewardship and sustainable use is by increasing awareness,
So that's
increasing.
a search.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a search.
So good thing we're not the technology. Increasing awareness, establishing, maintaining a broader connection with the residents, helping the Trails Club maintain a strong volunteer base, foster partnerships with places like schools, civic groups, businesses, etc. Encourage healthy outdoor recreation, and environmental stewardship. Right? So have, resident stakeholders feel a closer connection and bond, want to actually maintain or have a steward role. Provide equitable access and inclusive programming for all residents, like training, usage, things like that. So those are sort of the tenets. Again, there's more. Those are kind of the foundations for how we think we can accomplish our purpose. And the way, that's kind of, again, some ideas. So I could stop there. And then I want to talk a little bit about some of the target audiences and some of the ways we think we can engage people. That,
No, it sounds good.
okay? All right.
And I
So,
want to
yeah,
make sure we
please.
get down to the shorter terms.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not going to read every bullet point.
Okay,
So target audiences, we think it's very important that we identify in us as a group. This is not prescriptive, right? This is just a draft for everybody's consideration. We can talk about it later meetings. But we believe some of the key target audiences are the obvious ones like users, right? But who are the users and identifying those, right? Residents, individuals, families, assisted, walkers, hikers, you get the list. School groups, and important to this is sub-communities, right? And that's why, Sean, when you mentioned your thoughts and ideas around this clustering, that's why our eyes lit up on this one, because Linda and I talked about this. Very, very important. And you guys have heard this phrase from me in the past, but meet them where they are. Going to those clusters and those communities and having meetings or engagement events or anything like that in an area, either where there's a need, density, availability, whatever the point is, go there. And I think that's going to be important for thinking of neighborhoods and areas as sub-communities. From a partnership perspective, we think we have a lot of opportunity in our town for community organizations, foundations. We already engage with Hall, Sudbury Valley and all those guys, but moms groups we've talked about a lot. Local businesses, we don't do anything with. Are they a source of funding? Are they a source of partnership? Are they a source of advocacy, advertising? I think we have an opportunity here, not trying to commercialize our group by any means, but to engage with those businesses because it's a win-win for them and us, whether it's even an REI or a sports store, or whether it's a pizza place, right? Having a trail pizza night where every pizza bought, $1 goes toward a town trail, something like that. Anyways, so that's kind of some of the target audiences. Reaction, thoughts?
No, I think it's great.
All right.
I think the commercial realtors are important.
What's that?
I think that SE Asian isn't probably what you really want to say there.
What's that?
I do. There's a Southeast Asian community group in
Really? Yeah.
Hopkinton.
Is it really?
Have hundreds of members and is
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
active.
we talked about that yeah, I mean, just, it's important to get every group that,
They call themselves the Southeast.
Yeah, I've been to
Yeah.
their events. Yeah.
Just, that's not what I,
South Asian.
no, it's South,
Southeast Asian.
Southeastern Asians.
Yeah.
South and Eastern.
No,
Southeast
southeastern.
Asian.
so we have a diverse group, maybe arguably to that point, maybe not diverse enough, but we have a diverse group.
They go-
And each of us has our own circles, mountain biking, scouts and other things, neighborhoods. We all have our own diverse groups, our connection points to the town. It's important for us to feel like we can represent ourselves and have those groups, subgroups represent us. So,
South
that's-
Asian.
and they all-
Southeast Asian.
okay, they all have their own way and reason why they connect with each other. There's no reason why we can't see what they, educate them on the value of the trails. So engagement strategies, right? We had some fun with this one, right? We have the items that Linda and others and we're all pursuing around trails and signage, but also promoting initiatives, things like website and social media for awareness and communication, regular updates, maps. We talked about in the past about hiding things on trails. We've done things like spooky trails and art on trails and things like that in the past. But let's do more of that to engage people because that's been successful, but we've not gained consistency and momentum around that. And that's the important by creating what we call a program. We should have engagement programs. And a program, I'm not a marketing person, so I'm not going to pretend to be smarter on this, and people are. But when you think of a program is, we're going to have a meeting here with this group at the library. It's going to be teamed up with an article in the Independent. We're actually going to team that up with a meeting the next day at the school committee. We're going to actually put a flyer out. We're going to hang a map up. I'm going to do a pizza contest. I'm making all this stuff up, right? All within the same, vicinity of time to create and target certain groups or certain areas in town and promote certain aspects or certain areas of our trails, right? So we want to actually think of ourselves as, and this goes back to a lot of what Linda's, to her credit, has been talking about, Sean and others, to focus. Let's not spread ourselves too thin. If we have a priority list from the priority group that's consistent with the planning group, right? We go out there and we say, okay, we have a trails day, but we also want to promote the rest of the trail at that same time, right? Anyways, so you get the idea around awareness and engagement. We talk about press releases, story trails, trail of the month. We would love to get in the Independent if folks on the Independent listen, but I think you guys know this picture of the picture that they always put in would be great. If we can get a trail picture in there once in a while and get them once a month or something like that to encourage people to enjoy the beauty of our trails.
Maine sponsors it.
What's that?
Maine sponsors it.
Yeah. There you go. Commercial sponsorship.
Yeah, so one thing from a program perspective, the Independent comes out every couple of weeks. And maybe, so once a month, maybe have they've always had articles, sort of revolving, but maybe have a trail specific once a month. So, where are you walking? Or should be.
We were talking about trail stories. People write in and tell us a trail story. We talked about, again, this is just blue sky. Take a picture and have a contest. Someone sends a picture and maybe it's a gift card to a sports store or whatever, or trail equipment, and send a picture and then you put it in the paper and encourage people to send pictures of themselves in the trails.
See if we could get
Put it on our
a
website.
trail, trails happening.
Yeah, exactly.
So that because programmatically, once, if something shows up once a month and people are ready to listen to it.
Exactly. We have to be consistent with momentum. Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, this is a living document, right?
Correct, absolutely.
And so this is just for, you're introducing the concept right now. The expectation is we go back, digest it, and we can feed into it and add to it and change it going forward.
100%.
Okay.
That's why I cite that Peter got the juices flowing around. Sure. Getting articles. So I'm not going to go through the whole list here.
Did you have something, Kenny?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, just on one of the ideas you already mentioned, so we've got this, beginning of the month Trails Day. Should we be writing to the Independent just to describe what we just did and have that be an article?
It is usually, right? I mean, like trails.
Beyond it then.
I mean, the Independent publishes daily on their website.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of work working with the Independent. I've spent a lot of time and they're very reluctant to do too much on any given area. So I think they already do a lot of the trails stuff for the Trails Club. I think it's going to be very hard to get them to pump it up more unless we take out ads and do paid ads. And then we get an article with it. So
We're have some activity.
Yeah.
We're having active activity lunch.
We'll get press. We'll get press. And that's why we want to do as a program. We don't want to randomly say, like, I think it was Linda, I don't remember, like the,
like
I guess,
having a
flying.
monthly trail
Yeah.
column, we're not going to get that unless we pay them.
But Linda or someone
That is-
probably came up with this good idea, like hike all the Hopkins Trails passport program, or a certain number, where you mark off what you do. I mean, the ideas abound, but we really want you guys to come up with them because the important thing is you will get press around that. You will get momentum. You want to get different engagement groups to come in, even marathon week or that around marathon, we do nothing around that to promote the trails. Not that the marathons or anybody, but trying to tie that in would be nice.
Okay,
Health and yoga, I know, and meditation, things like that. Sorry.
another idea in the same direction. And from our own website, can we figure out what previous trails activities we've done?
Oh, yeah.
So is that something the public can easily get at them?
I'm not sure why we would want the public to go back and look at all the past activities. It certainly wouldn't be a high priority to put them up there.
Right.
Well, it's just a list of what we've done.
No, but again, if you have a monthly trails happening things, that
Yeah.
could be,
We want to get into a cycle of, you guys know this, everybody knows, like just reinforce, stay in people's face, not
A lot of
obnoxiously.
different ways.
Just a lot of different ways and come at them in the ways that they're comfortable.
Right, and to Linda's point, I mean, the independent, they would be much happier if we were paying them for the privilege.
Yeah.
Having said that, their job is to get people to not just toss the independent in the trash. So if we work and we're promoting it elsewhere, all of a sudden, go to the independent for information on what's going on with trails. That's a benefit to them. That's not a financial drain on us.
Right. And
So I
also,
think there are ways to do it. We are the news. We want to make ourselves the news.
and the glue, the stickiness, right? The old,
Right.
website stuff is stickiness, right? So Linda, I think had the idea again, she's great at ideas, right? So it's like, take a picture, where are we? Or take a picture of a place in town on a trail and put it in the paper and with a clue and people write in where it is, or, you know what I mean? Just start getting the engagement back and forth.
I guess I just want to say the independent is only one
Yeah, the website.
Right.
thing. We
One app.
have social
Facebook,
media, we have the website, we have other things we should rely on, not just them, that's all.
Yeah.
Just because they won't.
Chuck got his hands up.
Chuck?
Chuck?
Yeah, just a thought, given the success that John Ritz has often getting stuff publicized for the Trails Club, is that most of the Trails Club activities, certainly the work days, are in cooperation with the Trails Committee. And so maybe, since I think, Peter, you're vice chair of the Trails Club, perhaps Trails Club publicity could include mention of the Trails Committee. That's only.
They may be funded by things like that, would be helpful, Chuck, to your point. I think I agree, Sean.
So one of the action items out of I'm not sure, like, so you're just going through the list now. And I'm being presumptuous that at a future point in time, you're going to come back with the prioritization of where you think.
Yeah,
we
we
should-
have it. I was gonna get to.
Okay, all right. So
So this-
stop interrupting you is what you're saying?
No, that's your line. Hey, Sean, that's your line.
So I think we can skip over partnerships because we've
Yeah,
already talked about that a
exactly.
bit. This is just some of the things we might do with them.
So I was just gonna highlight one thing or two things under volunteer engagement. Is creating trail ambassadors. Other groups have them. I think we should try to get them wherever possible. Again, that extends the community reach, hopefully to people that aren't always doing the cleanups and things like that. And then offer recognition like certificates, social media spotlights, and volunteering appreciation events and things like that, like picnics and things. So things like that we should do and put into our budget. Linda has done a lot of work on feedback and continuous improvement. So, guys know we're going to hopefully launch at some point this
To contact us.
contact us an intake that Linda took you guys through. So I won't talk through that. One of the things that we want to do for continuous improvement and feedback is metrics. So we'd like to discuss at some point measuring and maybe even purchasing a trail monitor. One of the things that could be either a post that's discrete or something you put on a tree that actually tracks volume of users and things like that. So we'd like to, put that for a future discussion.
American Trails has 4 webinars this month on metrics on trails use. So
Cool.
hopefully we'll get some
Yep.
ideas from
I know
those.
Holliston has done that. I think Milford has as well, so we could certainly find out how they.
Borrow them.
Yeah, yeah.
To try it out, right?
Right.
So that's the thing, is like when Sean and team, the planning group comes through and says, okay, we want to start focusing on this one cluster. we could put some of the, we target that area and then also do the promotion. We can see the success of our, or failure of our outreach, right? So see if the volume upticks. Yeah.
Right, it's also important for funding.
And so timeline, and as Linda puts it.
Well, that was just an example. I'd rather if we skipped over that.
What,
It's not
the
really-
timeline?
Yeah,
Okay, well, I was gonna say, we're gonna put together a timeline.
Yeah.
Right, so, as Linda puts it here, it's an ambitious example, because it's really just, example. We say, for example, Q1, we want to do the following things. Maybe it's roadside signs, or contact us, survey, we do like 4 or 5 things in Q1. Or winter, season 1. Season 2, we do the following. Season 3, we do the following. And we kind of build on it from there, right? Where we already have the foundation, then say Q1, we launch contact us. Q2, maybe it's social media, it's on top of that, it starts to advertise that, and you know what I mean? So we want it to be a little bit deliberate.
As an aside, does that make sense for all 3 groups to do exactly that? To be thinking about, yeah.
A seasonal or whatever, plus I agree.
Thinking about that for our next meeting, maybe that's something that's more actionable and more, and easier to bring back to the whole group to get agreement on.
Yep.
Thoughts?
I think, well, I say like it's too soon to jump into it. I think building the framework for it,
Yeah.
and we don't want to wait like 6 months to do
Yeah.
things, but I think somewhere is a happy medium. I agree with getting a framework for it and seeing, is there anything we could focus on this month collectively? But I don't know if we're gonna get a whole plan.
I think over a few, if these groups continue, because right now they're just temporary for a few months. If they continue, to me, the next step would be coming up with quarterly, yearly sub goals.
Right.
Just sort of what that is.
One thing for community engagement, the last point on the timeline is also here is like, I think we should get in front of select board. Before it gets into holiday season would be ideal. We'll probably talk together agenda.
Right.
Yeah, but as soon as we can get in the select board to tell them all the good things we've been doing and how we've been organizing and planning. And then maybe it's a coincidence to coincide with the launching of our contact us or whatever. Anyway, so the last piece is evaluation metrics. The most important thing is feedback, right? What's working, what's not working, and to course correct or adjust or add to. So attendance at events and programs. We ballpark, like family day, we ballpark these other things. I think we should be more deliberate about that and try to track it. Yeah, it's over years, some of those events, but we should try to track and even look at demographics, of attendance to events that people are asking questions, things like that, right? The other thing is growth in social media followers and newsletters. I told Linda, I'll help and, become a person that can help post or whatever, if she's comfortable with that on social media. So we can start to build up that, because it's been, she's had.
Jack's gonna post the most social media.
Who is?
Jack.
He might. Let's be careful not to give it to everybody. But at any rate, so that's a big one, is growth in followers and newsletter signups. So that's a real tangible one. And we're going to make a really big push on social media, because it's going to reach a different audience and demographic of both moms and.
I just want to jump in.
Things like
There's
that.
2 different kinds of metrics. One is how well did a specific action work? But the other one is overall for our committee, we're trying to probably increase trail usage and increase use satisfaction. So those are 2 things we want to, that we're overall trying to do. Whether an event is at an event that says how well that event went. But really overall, we're trying to figure out we're trying to improve people using the trails and how satisfied they are, and diversity as well.
Yeah, and number of volunteers and things like that, broadening it. It seems to be a lot of the same people. And I'm not one of them right now. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
But diversity and participation across age we talked about, and then satisfaction and dimension. So those, some are hard to measure and qualitative, but we're going to try to quantify as much as we can. And other types of things, if we didn't have a budget to get like a trail site counter, there's even things like where you can have people hit things, and spins a dial, or there's ways that we could try to get some sort of indication, as rudimentary or sophisticated as budget would allow.
So for social media, what are you thinking?
Well, we have a Facebook and an Instagram page, and so far I stopped posting on TCMC when we got to stand in. I just recently started posting for us here and I've limited it to the work days and the walks. But we can start doing more. We can post that we have a meeting. We can post
Yeah.
a highlight meeting. We can post that what some things we've decided on, the
Well, yeah, I was thinking I need to get out more anyways to more of the trails. I was thinking to go around and just snapping a bunch of cool pictures and put them out there. Motivational phrases, whatever we can do, things around town.
And, if we have one or two
Picture
posts
chat.
a week, that's good. More than
Picture
that
you.
is a lot of time.
I was, again, with Sean's reaching out to the Facebook page for individual communities, there's a lot of that throughout
Yeah.
town, the moms groups and all that. And so,
What we would really want to do is get people who are part of different groups to
Yes.
repost posts. That's the most
Okay.
important thing. So like I can do the woman groups, but I'm not part of the moms group, for
Yeah.
example.
My
So,
wife is, yeah.
right.
yeah, so getting people to read.
Obviously I'm not, they wouldn't let me in. But we could put QR codes around and things like that, so get more followers on Instagram. So we'll help, Linda and I'll brainstorm a lot of that. If you guys are okay with that part, I mean, that's part of the job anyways, we could just do that, right? We didn't vote, let's
No.
do it. We'll be smart about what we post, obviously, but,
Yeah, we wouldn't post controversial
yeah.
things.
One comment about going to the select board. When do we talk about funding? Or the select board talk about funding?
We draw up a budget, and then we just submit it.
And that starts pretty soon.
Starting, yeah. should be starting.
So
For
Well, I
June,
think
for
we
next
should
June.
be starting talking
Yeah.
about it right now.
Yeah.
Do, but
Yeah.
Probably next month.
next month.
So wouldn't it be in our best interest to have the transparency outreach to the select board before we submit a budget?
They don't care. They're just going to look at the line item, the bottom line item.
But to build,
In the process, it's
to
good.
build
Doesn't have to
a
be.
relationship to say, hey, we're doing a whole bunch of good stuff.
Yeah, they're looking at the whole multi-billion-dollar town.
It kind of feels like we're such a blip
Yeah,
that
we're
honestly,
just not
what we're
big
gonna put in, they're gonna just say, okay. But I agree with you, at least in theory.
Well, we already got it sort of set up.
It can't hurt. Sean's like, it can't
We're
hurt.
likely.
Well, if we go before the
Well,
board
and I
of selectmen, you could bring it up.
So stepping back, I thought we had,
Make a
So
special
we have a plan too, but I
request.
didn't see it.
yeah, no, it's here.
But if we're in
So
a,
we
oh,
have-
wait. Oh,
We
gosh, my pages
prioritize-
stuck together.
So the prioritized initial priority list was like the main
Yeah.
thing we wanted to kind of also go over. So taking all that stuff, this was what we were gonna work on.
Can we take 5 minutes on this? Is that
Yeah.
okay? All right.
I don't know if we have to read it, maybe.
No, I was gonna read the bullet points and go from there. Is that okay? Work. So, the priority would be, and we think in this order, but it was not
I don't know if
absolute.
this
Yeah.
was in
I
order.
mean, we kind of started to, but we had trouble because a lot of number ones. Awareness, inspiration for trailer usage would be a very high priority. Education, right? Feedback, events, and then kind of sharing and spreading the word of what we're up to. Those were kind of what we think our priorities should be right now. And then we started a slot underneath there. And it is a lot. But again, we're talking about season 1, season 2. How do we build on it? What do we do? So those are some of the ideas underneath each of those that we came up with that we'd like to discuss with the committee to see what you guys think. And, would you guys think that 1A is the most important? Let's talk about it as a group. To go up with a logo and tagline, is that important for us? Is that a precursor or prerequisite to a lot of things? Maybe, maybe not, but we'll talk about it.
And I just also wanna say that the asterisk also is whatever else the committee is doing has to drive what we do too. The committee's doing a project that drives what outreach is doing too.
So what we did down below, as you scroll down, we said, okay, here's our bucketing up top of a 1 to 5. Now we said, okay, could we tackle these items down below as our first priorities? Again, for everybody's consideration reaction at upcoming meeting. But, we do think logo and tagline would be important, right? Do we piggyback off of Hopkinton and Knock? But what, you've been saying that?
What do you mean by that?
We want a logo, we want.
We want to be identifiable
So that when we have signs or social media or posts.
on
it's
anything,
the same thing,
t-shirts,
Sort
giveaways,
of a pretty basic.
mailers, notifications for public hearing, anything.
Right now, we don't have anything as a logo for our committee on the town website. Would that be a place where we would have?
Well,
That
that'd
would
be
be an
one
example.
place, but all our social media would have it, any posters we put up, any yard signs. It's basically getting people. to
It's our identity.
trails. Yeah,
It's something that people can visually see, but in a millisecond say, that's the Hopkins Trails. Oh, yeah, we have a lot of trails.
yeah, almost every group has a logo.
Yeah, I kind of almost thought we already had one. I mean, okay, so,
Well, The
so.
closest we had was the
Let's go
roadside
trail-
trail sign.
Roadside trail sign, I think.
Past that, I
I agree.
agree. So we have to decide if we want that to be part of the logo, but we have to add Hopkinton Trails Committee to that and make it look good.
Or the town of Hopkinton, like you said, or something. We'll figure it out, but we're not here to. But we think that that's an important one because that's going to drive a lot of the identity and communication.
And a tagline is probably a good idea too, although I think there's more.
Like it all starts here. Oh, that's taken. But maps, we talked about benefiting from those would be important. Roadside signs, which we're all advocates, I believe, and moving forward on the contact us, which again, we talked about the soft launch or the launch, social media reboot, and then select board catch up. That's why we thought of December getting it in. So that's what we think the top priorities of all the things, from all the pages before, we tried to boil it down to a bite size. And we think a small group can drive these with obviously everybody's discussion and guidance.
Sounds good.
Any other feedback?
A lot of stuff.
So one of the things is on the signs, we did get a proposal. A quote to do the roadside trail signs. And let me just bring that up, and we would need to vote on that. To proceed.
We were talking about having three or four signs. Is that
Well,
right?
we said 4 signs, but we couldn't do the 4th one. I forget what the reason was.
We are gonna do the fourth one.
Yeah.
It's the parking lot area on East Main. And we decided because we didn't have a name for it, that we were just gonna have it be generic trail with no name. For now, until we come up with a name for that.
A town contest.
We could do.
Name the trail.
So my opinion is I don't really like naming trails after people, but what's a great honor is if you say to somebody, we want to acknowledge you for working on trails, rather than naming a trail after you, you get to pick the name of the trail. Honor them that way.
Is great, except the Silk Board has the final approval on the
They
way.
do, which is fine, but I
But
just,
we can,
yeah,
and they have a criteria list.
Yeah.
It's historical, it has.
it's on our website, that list.
Yep.
So this is the quote for the signs. I will. Okay, so it's really 8 signs, 4 different signs, but on 2 sides, because remember, they'll be double-sided. It's 4 of the posts and 4 anchors. And the total is $687.
That seems so cheap.
Yeah.
What's it?
Sounds like-
What's the material?
Okay.
Really? I mean,
Yeah.
well, for the historical commission, we're paying, a couple thousand.
Different signs. so-
Different signs, yeah, they're much, yeah.
And these
But,
are road signs.
No, understood. Oh, well, are these metal road signs? I thought we were.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like, okay.
Yeah, that's about the range.
Okay, so this is a little higher than a metal post.
12 by
Springer, but
we said 12 by 15.
18.
Well, we're recommending 12 by 18, but they could come back to us and say, we don't think that font is big enough. We recommend you go bigger. And then it possibly would cost more. So one of the questions
I
tonight
think,
is.
yeah, I think
think
12
it's
by
gonna be big
18
enough.
is.
That's,
You don't want
say
it to be.
30 miles per hour.
Well, that,
Wait, you don't have to read
Carrie
it.
was saying it.
What's the purpose of it?
Be
Well,
large.
you're gonna see
You'll see the logo and think of the hiker signs up in New Hampshire.
No, I
You're
understand.
going more 40, 50 miles an hour and you go, there's trail there. And you don't need to know what trail is. You come back and figure that out when you get by, but it tells you it's there.
Yeah, it's to alert attention and maybe you're not gonna stop right then, but you might come back or
Yeah.
look it up or say, oh, I saw this trail. Do you know what
I
that
think
is?
Carrie was recommending the size according to the speed limit too. She had,
And these are not visible at night, right? But like they don't glow.
well, just like a speed limit sign.
Right.
It's,
Those are the reflective headlights. Oh, okay.
It's like-
I don't know that actually.
Yeah, I don't think they would be, but
Well,
again,
somewhat.
But in
it
the
would be
headlight, you
subtle.
see them.
Yeah,
but the,
Again, you don't really want them to.
and again, no, we're beta testing it. So we try in this size. And if people say, yeah, we need something bigger, then, but I think going small, these don't sound.
These are bigger than we originally came up with.
Yeah.
As DPW said, make them a little bigger.
Yeah, so I think.
based on how-
Do you guys need to see them again or?
No, I don't. think
Yeah,
so.
that's okay. I whispered because it's been a while, but it doesn't matter. So they're 10 foot out of the ground and 3'6" in the ground.
That's the pole, they will be,
That's a pole.
that's the pole length. It's gonna be
I
some,
think it's like.
So what's the 3'6" piece then? The channel post versus anchors
I don't know what it is.
versus the post. That's what I was wondering.
I don't really know what it
It
is.
feels like the anchor goes into the ground or so, or maybe, you know what? It supports behind it. So it anchors into the ground and then
Yeah.
they double up.
Yeah.
They double up for about,
They
Okay.
said if we bought it, they would put it in.
right,
oh, they're gonna put it in. too?
right. So this is what they want.
This is what they work with.
All right, I'm looking for a motion to spend,
Can I just say one other thing? I got this to carry like 6 in the morning and by 8 in the morning I had to go back. So yay DPW for being
Wow.
so responsive.
yes, and
It's
on that same note, I reached out to Carrie because at Chamberlain Street where they put the new pavement down, the pavement was running onto the center trail where it hits Chamberlain Street and starting to rot that out. And so I was spending some time, erode it. And so I'm like, okay, well, what do I gotta do here and get some stone and maybe I'll do that. And so I reached out to Carrie and, that was the day they were actually doing speed humps in there and they said, well, we got the equipment and they put a berm in that day. So it's done.
Good job, Peter.
So DPW has been
Great, yeah.
That was
working well. Well,
relationship building.
I'll motion to approve the quote for the signs.
Second,
all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Right.
All abstentions, so carries. All righty. Good, so signs. Other accounting. So I thought we talked about the Pratt field mowing for $2,160.
We talked about it, yeah.
Do we ever, apparently we never voted on anything because apparently that's still hanging out there.
Yeah, I don't think we did.
I move that we pay the bill for 2,000.
2,160 for Robert Pratt.
Exactly.
Drill mowing.
second,
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right.
And then we have two other bills to
What
approve.
was that for? Because that has. to be
Robert
in it.
Pratt.
Robert Pratt for trail mowing in the fields,
Oh,
basically.
we did do that.
I thought we did too, but I couldn't find it in the minutes, so.
That's
it
my
doesn't
bad.
hurt to have
No,
it
I
done
think,
again.
yeah, I think we may have talked about it and never.
We definitely discussed it, but
I may have put it up there, so, okay.
And then, so the other item is,
I'm sorry, Peter, 210621.
2160. 2160, 2,160.
Okay.
And then for Boston Lawnmower, there were two invoices. Again, one I thought we already sent in is $140.18 for work on the town's chainsaw, sharpening and general maintenance, and then $30.48 for a carry strap for the extended arm hedge trimmer. So I'm looking for a motion to approve those two invoices.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay,
Did Chuck have something in there too?
That might-
that was
That was the $35 or $30?
good strap.
yeah, I think that's right.
Chainsaw.
He mentioned,
Yeah, he had something in with the chainsaw. There was also a
Okay.
piece in there. Yeah. And 40 plus Chucks.
And what's the 3048 for Boston lawnmower?
Yeah, they're both Boston Lawnmower. Okay, and so I give this to you to give to them? Sure. Yeah, it's,
Wait a minute.
oh, we need to sign it.
Okay.
Signature by Trails Committee.
Have you done yet,
Just
John?
pass it around and get a few signatures.
You'll need a copy of the minutes approving it, and you have to fill out
Does he have to wait till the minutes are approved next month?
Yes.
Well,
No.
You sure?
I
think
don't think,
so.
no, I think the copy of the minutes suffices. Yeah, the fact that we voted and approved, yes.
But we
Yeah.
don't vote on the minutes.
No, we voted. We,
no, I think Belinda's right.
I think you have to
Yeah,
wait till
wait
the
till
minutes
next
are
month.
approved
Yeah.
next month. So
And then I
So they still need
No,
to
you
sign,
can still
you can sign it now.
sign and keep it
Yeah.
in your records, and then that piece is done.
And it does need 3 signatures.
Yes, might as well.
I only thought it needed yours, but
They've got multiple signatures.
That's what,
Wow, so, yeah.
let's just do it.
it's just,
Better to, better to
Yeah,
get them, yeah.
James.
yeah, get it up front.
have it in.
Yeah, do you want them, do you want to bring it to them and they say, oh no, we need 2 more signatures?
Bring it over to Bill's, get a couple more signatures.
Going down the line. Remember to bring it back.
And you can maybe reach out to them and say, hey,
Well, I got that email that I forwarded you. Is that how you knew about this, that email?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll respond back to her after.
No, you're right.
approval of the minutes.
Lynn's right. They're gonna talk, approve this.
Sure.
Can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can do that. That's not a big deal.
so you have to wait till after the next.
Understood. Thank you.
So we can talk about e-bikes?
yeah, no, we can
I
drop.
think that's,
How about Ash Street?
So, yeah, there's a few things. So the Loop Road to Chamberlain Trail, Chuck and I and Robert Whiteneck worked on putting together the stormwater report. There's a checklist that Chuck put together, and now we need to get a engineer to sign off on it. We reached out to Beals and Thomas for that, so hopefully that gets done, and then we can go to Concom with that. I will reach out to them when I get home to see what the status of that is. The other items, so I submitted the Ash Street proposal to Elaine. She sort of had missed it, so she got back to me and she passed it on to accounting tonight. And so I'm gonna get her one other piece of information and then that'll move forward. She has heard crickets from the Enbright people, with regard to the right of way, getting access into that field. I asked her, can we just go ahead? She said we could probably work with 26.2 and get something for them. I
that
said,
was,
well, 26.2 is gonna want the licensing agreement. Ideally, we as a town are apparently getting new town council. They come on board November 1, and so it's
Interesting.
top of order to work on that kind of stuff. So
I'm sorry, so 26.201, what?
26.2, ideally, they have a licensing agreement that allows that basically the town indemnifies them for the public using their property.
I thought it was our property in there.
It's our property, they're leasing it,
They're
but
leasing it.
yes, but for $1, they have control over it and we can't use it. Which seems a little
Yeah.
odd.
So the bottom line on that part then is that when the new town council comes in, they would do something that,
I've been pushing 26.2 to do it without the licensing agreement, and they may, because if they're insurance companies, if they can put this on as a rider or something, and they can do that.
Well, it took way too much work to
You're
take
right.
that one piece out
we
of
were
that.
advised
We'll see.
before under the.
Couldn't we just carve that one area back out of it, what they're,
We were just told that it was okay, just go ahead because it was a short span, it was like 20 feet and just go ahead.
we couldn't just carve that one little piece out of the $1 lease.
Well, this
They
is
just-
short term too, because after they build a building, then we have all the trails and
Yeah.
presumably
Right.
if we get them to say, all right, we don't care if people are on the trail, our insurance covers it. I think that's the easiest.
So it's for the whole trails and not just the parking area.
As long as they're thinking.
That was just
And
the
if
parking
to
area.
access a parking area, I think what the agreement was, I mean, what they were looking for was that they're telling us we can't ride on top of it for an extended
Oh,
period of
for-
time.
for
We're just
Enbright,
going in like 20 feet and turning right. So
Yeah.
they didn't, when we were talking with them, they didn't care about that. They really didn't.
Again, with the Enbright folks,
Well, that's what Gilbert, we talked to.
Yeah.
They didn't want to be bothered with it because. they
right,
have to
and
go-
again, they've got, their attorneys were sitting down in Houston, so trying to get them to do anything, so.
Well,
we'll see.
we wouldn't have,
Well,
had it if it was a quarter mile, they would have said forget about it, but
Yeah.
this was like a few feet.
Yeah, so hopefully Ash Street gets moving quickly.
Thank you.
And just speaking of East Main Street, is there more work to be done on the trails there? Or
The
did
mapping.
the work, what's that?
The mapping?
So the-
No, I meant the trail day. There was a trail work day.
Right, there is still more work to be done down there, but again, we've got to get 26.2 insurance approval to do that. The mapping project is going forward. That has gone to Beals and Thomas. They've actually had somebody on the field. Chuck's already done some of the mapping as well, so gonna get Chuck together with them to coordinate and better make sure that there's best spending the 3,500 they have. So hopefully we'll get something shortly on that. I think it sounded like they had somebody with some downtime. They knew this was coming in. They were just, so they had somebody go map it. So,
One little thing, when I was talking earlier about a checklist and it came up with signs in East Main Street, we don't have a name for that area. Somewhere in our proposal, this is where a proposal is before, a checklist is, okay, now we've decided to do it, what are we gonna do? Names needs to be on there somewhere so we can get trail names, trail maps done at some point. We should try to come up with our process for naming trails, because I know Chuck's mentioned the Chamberlain trails all need names, that area, that kind of thing. So maybe at some point we can have that on the agenda, how we come, what trails need names and what's our process for coming up with them.
well, I think we just go and follow the federal government. I think every trail henceforth will be named the Lagoy Trail, following our president. Everything's named after him. Right?
I just got that, yeah, okay.
No, the town does have a good procedure. so-
Slide your coin on the trail.
Yes.
It's gonna snow, it's gonna be at every point.
The name's
Yeah,
gonna
the
change.
flag going
When the office
when you come in.
And just like in terms of areas, do we think that East Main Street is part of Legacy North or is it a different? I was,
It's probably gonna be a different area. Yes. So 26.2, one of the things, the synergy there is, this is an intro to their International Marathon Center, a future home of.
Could logically be the Marathon Museum Trail.
Yeah.
Sorry, just on the naming. So our next meeting is November. If we're talking about a separate meeting, I mean, I don't know when we're gonna get the names, but the Chamberlain is going to be, and it's a pretty heavily used, especially when it gets better, right? By a potentially different crowd. So maybe why don't we consider next meeting having that be potentially a name the trail involvement or select the name trail
I think it's
for
premature.
engaging the town.
I'm with Jane.
For sure, do that for that one segment.
See, I-
There's so much to do before we get there.
No,
Let's
we have,
mention the
we
fact
have the
that
trail. Trail set.
the trail is on private property, especially on the Berry Acre side.
But we're talking about that segment though, I thought that exists, no?
So,
All right, so we have an east section and we have a west section,
Right,
right? And
the
so
west is what you're talking about,
the workday session is on the west.
right?
What Chuck and Peter have been working with, trying to get the engineer, that's on the east side. And so,
I think what we've done in the past is just put a sign that says trail. And then later,
Yeah.
if the identity becomes obvious, then you can always come back and label it or name it.
I was piggybacking on the comment that we needed to name trails, so.
I know, but I think.
Yeah, I think there are some.
To plan yet.
Whatever those trails are, I'm just saying, like, let's consider that next meeting. I'm just planting a seed for next meeting. Discuss.
One of the things we talked about as
Like, yeah, that's
it's a good point. I think one of the things we talked about as PCMC and is important, I think, for outreach is naming trails. And so thinking about it, we were thinking about it at that point as something that was either, twice a year type thing as trails get built. Coming.
Whatever, again, I'm not, listen,
I think there's some value in it. I don't think for next meeting, but I think in a near meeting, it probably does make sense to do that.
I'm saying to discuss our approach. Linda's, I was piggybacking on Linda's comment. At a future
And I
meeting, we
think-
should discuss what our approach and timing is for it. So,
Yeah, so. Okay, then you've got yourself an assignment and you can pass it off to the rest of us as well. But there are certainly a bunch of trails in town that are not named and that couldn't use names, and trails that are named but not officially. So for example, the cattle run trail.
Yeah.
Think about those, each of us individually, think about those trails and throw it into,
well, we'll see it on the map. I'm okay waiting. I'm just saying, I mean, I'm fine.
no, but
I'm not listening.
throw it, it's a good point. So by next meeting, so by November, send those names to me. I'll assemble a list.
Me identify the segments.
Right, so say, hey, the cattle run trail in here, we think that's the name of this. It's in the new Colella land.
Yeah.
Here's I'll send out the criteria, or the criteria is available.
It's on the website.
But then maybe you start that process to bring it to the select board, and maybe that's,
If a trail exists.
Yeah.
The Chamberlain East and the Chamberlain West don't exist.
yeah.
That's my
Take it back
point. I'm
an
like,
idea.
See,
Take it back an idea.
Chuck, I thought like on TCMC even, you were like pushing for, we had needed some names for some trails at Chamberlain or Berry Acres. And so I thought we were like a year or two behind already. There are some that are done.
I was not proposing any particular names, only
Right.
that we needed signage. The simple approach right now, I think, or was it Jane mentioned, just a sign that says trail. But I did post some very temporary, now badly faded signs. One that said, trail to Chamberlain, and at the other end it said, to Center Trail. But that, we
that's more
certainly need
signage.
something a better thought through.
Both.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, but let's, obviously it won't take a lot of time, but do push on some trails that we think about that ought to get official select board approval.
We can put it in the master.
That's good.
The planning board's approval of the subdivision specified that the OSPC was somehow in charge of the trailhead signs. So
But
Right,
that needs to be sorted out.
right. But Ed was very clear that he was not planning on naming trails.
yeah, no,
Well, maybe we're in charge.
that was just a misinterpretation.
Alrighty, so we
I
got,
have two other things related to the other boards, whatever, so
okay.
and cover that part.
Yep, we've got basically 5 minutes to go.
The first one is there's apparently Westboro, Southboro, Northboro. You knew the person from Westboro. Those trail committees are starting to meet together and asked if we want to join them. So they're going to let us know when they're meeting next time. I can let our group know, whoever wants to attend
Yeah,
can,
that'd be great.
just to see.
Yeah.
And then on a similar note, but a little more provincial, Ed Harrow and I were talking about silos again, because it's a favorite subject, how one group in town doesn't know what another group's doing. And a couple years ago, we had a Trails for Kids event at the library. And one of the things that a lot of the groups mentioned was how great it was for the groups to get together. So Ed and I were talking about maybe we should do a trail powwow where we just have coffee and snacks at the library some night or the senior center. And just invite all the groups that are related to, I don't want to say just trails, but natural resources too, like Lake Maspinock.
Yeah.
And just to, not with any specific agenda in mind, just each group would chair would get up and say what we do.
What do you, yeah.
Exactly what your most important
And how
priorities
can we
are.
work together?
Maybe not even that yet. Maybe just an introduction night and a talking night, and then see what comes of it.
Well, I would love to hear from Astronaut and hear about their trails that are down there and how can we,
Right, I
what
just
is it
think
that
the
we're,
first,
that type of.
maybe not so much of that, maybe just more introduction for a first night and to see if we want to get
Agreed.
together and work.
Agreed.
And end up with an email list with contact names, and then if we want to get together again in the future, we can. Very casual, more of a networking thing to help break down silos and foster communication, not so much a working session.
That sounds good.
Okay, so maybe,
And anyone, did anyone think
Or
of
something
anything
that-
for community preservation?
what's that?
Did anyone think of any,
Well, I think
projects
we
for
need an
CPC?
update to see where we are. You could probably tell us that,
What?
where we stand.
No, just with regard to new projects.
I thought we had decided last time we weren't going to ask for.
Right,
we
but
decided
if,
not.
I said if anyone had a brainstorm and
Oh,
they could throw it in and we'd vote on it this meeting.
And if Dawn was going to recommend Maspinock to them. The
I think we have
CPC,
to wait on that to see
Yeah.
Right,
about,
but just,
finishing up some of the projects that we have, but definitely, I think it'll be listed in the master plan and, and our priorities and where that would fall in.
so nobody came up with anything to spend money. And I think that's
Crushed stone
reasonable.
at Cattle Run.
Hmm?
What about crushed stone at Cattle Run?
It had to be in by October 4th. So the idea from the last meeting was if you could put it in on your own and then we would, as a committee, vote
I didn't do it.
on it. Yeah, so I figured nobody, but an option. Okay, last thing and then we can.
Yeah,
adjourn.
so Halt's got its annual meeting next Wednesday, 7 o'clock at the Baptist, well, at the sanctuary in Woodville. And we need people to attend if you can. We need to have a certain percentage of the members of, that are members of Hall.
yeah.
Right.
In order to fulfill our statutory requirements for maintaining a 501c3. So anybody, everybody's welcome to go there, whether they're a member or not, but if anybody.
If you're a hall member, you really wanted.
Well, yeah, so I'm certain, I'm the.
I'll do my best, Ken, to.
What time?
What?
7 o'clock.
You don't have to stay for the whole thing in order to come to.
What's the whole thing? It's not as long as ours.
It's not
long and drawn out like ours. I mean.
Our meetings are even longer than this one. However, the annual meeting is not one of the long ones. It is a rather short meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. All righty. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Saturday, sorry. There's a trails
Oh,
call
yeah,
off on
that's right.
Saturday
Saturday 10th.
down in Deneen.
All in favor of adjourning before we get into trails club? All right, okay. Where's the trails?
The other groups.
Yes.
Still going with.
Together. Or regular trails.
I'm giving you my contact information. David's gonna do the same thing. So you can commit. You'll have it. You won't have an excuse.
Whoa.
The trails.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we need to get together. She just said.
At the last meeting, you said you were gonna put it together.
We're still
did.
in here.
Oh,
Because I was gonna do it.
forget the thing.
That way, yeah.
Every time we come up
All
here,
right,
I
let's
love
do
the
that.
placement of the
I
plant.
promise this time.
Yeah, right.
Your job, so be,
Well, that's,